Hey coaches, Coach KW here again. I hope you are all well. Excuse me if my voice is a little tired. It was a long week this week. I had the first two of my in-person for my D license course. It's a hybrid course where you have a couple of weeks online, then you get together for 2 whole days, then you go back for a few more weeks hybrid, and then you get together for 2 more days, and then you finish up. So I'll have more to talk about that process at the end of March, another 4 weeks or so, when hopefully I finish the course and achieve my license. It's been 5 years I've been trying to get into this course, and it finally fit my schedule. It literally took me taking a new job, and while it wasn't the first thing I thought of when I accepted the new job, it probably was the second. So it's been a long time coming for reasons, but part of that process is reflecting on your seasons and what you've done as a coach. And that got me thinking, hey, how was my season this year? Did my boys get better? I have a fifth grade team. It was their first year in 9v9. We played a U12 bracket, so basically against fifth and sixth graders, but we organized by grade in our town for that continuity. So I've been with my boys now for, this is my third year with them. And so reflecting back, hey, how did we do? How did the boys individually do? How did the team do? And how did I do as a coach as I went forward? So I went back. I have all but the second game recorded on our private YouTube channel for my town to be able to, for all coaches to look at. And I went through and watched snippets of every game going forward. And I think it's an interesting exercise. I'm going to bring you along with it so we can see the growth, see the difference from the very first kickoff for the first time they played competitive 9v9 for me to the last game and the first weekend of November, about 9, 10 weeks from the start of the season. And we can see the changes through the game. And I think it's an interesting journey. So let's take a look at that and we'll catch up at the end. Let's go. Oh, and one more thing before we go. If you could, we're so close to the 1,000. I think I'm 7 away from 1,000 subs. So if you've been watching this and you still haven't hit that subscribe button, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. If you like this content or any of my other content going way back, I have all sorts of 7v7 content as well. This is 9v9 right now. Hit the share, hit the thumbs up. It means a lot to me. Thanks. Okay, so what we have here is kickoff before our first ever game at 9v9. So first time the boys are playing a competitive match 9v9 with each other. A bunch of them had played 9v9 in the fall for their club, but not all of them, and certainly not together here. So a couple of things. Here we're playing in our 2-2-3-1 setup that we talked about in one of the other formation videos. And the second one is that I suspected that we were placed into the wrong division. We were in the second to last division where we probably should have been in the middle division. We were this Division 4 opponent, and we probably should have been Division 3 at least, but there's a mix-up with the league. It's going to get fixed. But that being said, one of the first things I asked my kids to do in the first 10 minutes or so was just try and possess the ball. And I had a couple of reasons for that. First was I wanted them to just get used to game-like situations, just trying to move the ball around and trying to kind of feel out their positioning. And second, wanted to feel out like as I watched the warm-ups of the other team, I thought to myself, this might be a mismatch. So let's not go straight at it. Let's kind of work on a few things and feel things out before we stop moving forward. So with that in mind, we're going to start this playing back. I like to watch these in 1.5 to 2x to watch the patterns. So that's where we are. 2-2-3-1, first game of the season. We're going to try and move the ball around, and we'll skip through the game a little bit as we go here. So here we go. First kickoff. Looks like the other team is perhaps playing a 3-2-3 of some sort. But you can see here, we're just moving the ball around, double pivot, back to the center back. Just try to get a feel for the field, get a feel for the game, get a feel for what's going on here. So the first 9 minutes or so really didn't have a lot of forward motion, but already if you're watching this with a critical eye, you'll notice that the game is very narrow. I mean, the ball is on the side right now, but watch once the ball goes back into the middle. I'm yelling, you can't hear that audio, but I'm yelling out wide to get wide. And it's going to be a common theme because here we are, basically both teams are inside the width of the 18s. I could have shaved 10 yards off of each side of the field for much of this game and nobody would have mattered. You can see here with the back four, the back double pivot came back into play. But again, even early on, we were noticing a couple of things here. It was narrow, and when we went forward, we lost that double pivot a number of times. Bad touch there. Yeah, good recovery. There we go. Get it out of there. This should have been 1-0 here, but player first year with us, a little bit still figuring things out, and that's what happens, right? First attempt at the game, but look how narrow the whole team is. It's very, it gets very clustered here. I'm going to just freeze right here for a second. One of the things I even noticed early on in the season was my two center backs are incredibly spread out. Let's see if I can bring up the drawing tools here. I don't usually use it. So here's one center back. Here's the other center back. There's supposed to be a 6 in the double pivot somewhere in the space. Instead, one of them's way up here, and I'm going to guess the other one is either here or here. I'm not really sure, and this is a common theme. So when the ball turns over, if you look, they basically got two players starting to advance and the ball here. So these players might be 2v2 going forward, which wouldn't be a great situation. The two players that are playing the 6 are relatively smart and they track back pretty well and got in the way, but it's a common theme. You're going to see a good goal here, a good shot, not great goaltending, but good shot from my supposedly left winger, who again was in the half space, if I'm being generous, on the left side of the field, not the actual left channel, to say the least. So I just want to pick it up here before this next goal, because this next goal is actually a fantastic shot. So I want to show that. But you can see again, we've got my two center backs hanging out here. I'm not used to these marking tools. I'm sorry. Here's my two center backs. And here was the other problem is this winger should probably be way out here. It's nice that he's hanging back out here, but really not doing a heck of a lot. And now my other wide player is going to be right here, but here's a 6. Here's the other 6. Here's a striker. Here's the 10. So what was happening a lot of times is that we were flattening out on the top of the 18, and there was no depth through our attack as well. So not only are my two center backs basically right now 3v2 when this player has the ball and everybody's turning and running back, maybe even 4v2, but the attack has no width, it has no depth. It's basically a line of players up here and then a line of players in the back. And that was another issue that we wanted to address that we noticed pretty quick. We're going to just play this through because we're going to recover this ball eventually, and there's a fantastic goal scored. So let's take a look at that. If the player didn't stumble on the ball, perhaps, but let's just play. It takes one tick, and then crossbar, post, and in. Really a great goal. So, first game of the season, they're figuring it out. Ends 5-0. We have a rule in our league you can't win by more than 7, but I was mistaken thinking it was 5. So, unfortunately, in the second half, we basically played keep away for 28 minutes. It was kind of embarrassing, honestly. I felt kind of bad, but what are you going to do? It was a good exercise for my team because it really helped them figure out how to use the space. So I guess, you have to make a positive out of a bad situation, right? This team was clearly not in the right division with us. And so, it was tough for us to do this. You can see, like, we're breaking down here, and my winger is going to come down here, and then he's going to just turn around and play the ball backwards, like not even try and shoot. At one point in this match, in the second half, my oldest son watched and clocked, and there was one point where the other team didn't touch the ball for 6.5 minutes. That's kind of tough to watch. I'm not going to lie, but we could have scored the 7 instead of the 5, and it wouldn't have mattered. For 28 minutes, we scored the 5th goal 2 minutes into the second half, and then that was it. But you can see here, we're just knocking the ball around, and the other team has given up. The other coach didn't want us to take any players off or do anything like that, so, we used it as an exercise. It is what it is, right? Yeah, this segment here is one of those segments where they really just didn't get close to the ball. Again, good for my players that we worked on a whole bunch of things here, but not exactly all that fun for the kids when you're told you can't score a goal. So, anyways, we'll move on to another game. Okay, so what we have here is now about a month later. This is October 5, and we're still in this old formation, to say the least. When I sit here and I look at, we set up with that double pivot. But there's a little bit more width to the team. We tried working on that. This game was a 7-1 win. This other team had some big boys. Like, look at the size of that kid. That kid he's playing against at 74 versus my player. That is not one of my smaller players. That is one of my above average size players. But a couple of these kids on that other team were just absolute meat hooks. So that caused us a little bit of a problem in terms of like their bulldozing method of how they got along. But we're still playing kind of narrow. We're still playing in that sort of 2-2-3-1 sort of shape. You can see the triangle in the midfield is kind of bigger side at the bottom. There's no defined six. There's the double pivot. But we've got a little bit more width to the game. We move the ball from side to side a lot better. We certainly do a better job at defending. But it's still, when my center backs are out there, they tend to be out there on an island, or they're not connected as well as they should be. But we've gotten a little bit better in terms of where to be and what to do with the ball. So again, ooh, good try. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the goals and where they come from here. Let's see what we got here. 4 players on that side of the ball. Oh, yes, this is one of my favorite plays here. We're going to back up because this is where we started to see the potential of what we were going to do in the future here. So this throw-in, I don't believe it ends in a goal, but it is indicative of the play we were hoping to start to do here. We're starting to implement playing through the 6 here. And so it's actually my son who's in this position, the 6, that take the throw in. And this is kind of indicative. I'm going to slow this down a little bit. We'll go to 1.5. This is where we started to think like, hey, we need to do this more often, but in a more pronounced way. So he's going to get this throw in here and turn, play back to one of the center backs, get into a position, take it again, now move it to one of the other 8s, who now pushes it up to the other 8, who then plays this ball out wide for the winger coming in from the side, and he just misses. It goes out for a goal kick. But it was that sort of play that we started to see like, hey, having somebody between the 2 center backs that can dictate the play would really be something that could be beneficial for us, and we've got the players that could do it. So perhaps we need to think about what we do differently here. I'm going to let this run because they start trying to figure out how to get past our press, because this team is one of the teams that I highlighted in the if you don't learn to nice goal right there. One of the video teams I highlighted in U10 at 7v7, they did the same goal kick routine. They put it on the corner, and one of their big kids tried to lump it up the field. But in 9v9, they tried the same thing, and the ball doesn't even get close to halfway, and it gets stuffed back down their throat. Starting to see principles. There's more width to this game, obviously. Like, players are holding their width better. Look at that there. Playing in. We've got lots of support around the ball. Things that are going well for there. But again, you can see my center backs are kind of all by themselves back there. Unless a player kind of just stumbles their way backwards to help support them. And we're flattening out. But using the width that we had going on, it did open up this team more, and that's why we were able to score 7 goals. We gave away a PK. That's how they scored their only goal. So you can see here in this example, we've got a lot more depth. We move the ball around a lot more. I'll back that up a little bit more. We have a lot of, because it's not perfect. We're just starting. This player right here is supposed to be my 6 in between the center backs, and is a little bit lost because, again, it's a new position. And that's not necessarily his favorite place, but you can see we've got some depth. We're moving the ball back and forth from the center backs, wide area. Turn back to another center back, puts the ball in, ends up getting knocked out of play. We win the throw in. But you can see now there's a little bit more depth. It's not completely flattened out onto the top of the box. My players have more options. They're moving the ball from left to right. We got real close here. You can see the interplay between the 2 8s there. Good shot on that. Decent save. So we're starting to have that structure come into play. We're starting to keep the width going on either side. But you know, it's our first real game in this position, and it's starting to find its way. Let's jump further into the game. And finally, we have our last game of the season, and this is where I believe you can really start to see that structure come into play. It's really become ingrained in the kids. Just take a look right now. Here we are going forward, and while the ball just went out of bounds way over here, look where my wide winger is. They're keeping their width all across the field so that we're maintaining that big shape. And as a matter of fact, he ends up getting this ball in the next phase of play relatively quickly from this throw-in that comes in from the other team. My center back wins it back, comes back to one of my other center backs, and he plays that ball out where it was in and tries to find the striker running into the middle. So already there's more structure there. Great attempt at a through ball. And then we'll see here, we've got this structure coming in. We get the striker pressing the ball. We've got the wide player supporting him. So there's my striker. There's my wide player. Here's one of my eights. Here's my center back. Here's the 6, who's maybe a little bit far forward, and we shout out to him and he readjusts. Here's my other 6, but look how far across the field my other wide player is. And if it's not in this phase of play, it's in a relative phase of play. That player keeps staying way out there. He ends up getting the ball and scoring the first goal because it went from this near side. He kept his width, picks it up over here, and just takes a shot, gets through a pair of legs, and goes right into the bottom corner. So really, the team is really starting to understand, this partnership here between the 2 8s, the partnership here between the 6 and the 2 center backs really starts to come into play. And you can see this all over this game. It was really pleasing to see. But we'll take a look at this first goal. Here we go. Ball, center back, out wide, plays it across the middle. But now that wide player that stayed out wide finds that ball in that spot outside the 6 and scores a goal. So that ball literally went from one side to the other. Unfortunately, popped that one right out. But we end up winning this ball back. It actually ends up being a goal. So we win the ball back. We're on the far right side. My left winger is going to score this goal coming up. So 6 comes in, center back, plays it to my striker. Striker turns around, plays it out to one of the 8s. One of the 8s plays it into the person who's playing wide. He just basically takes it down to the goal line and tucks it in the far net. So again, almost every player on the field had touched that ball from when we received it, from the far right side to the far left side. And so really showed, I think, a strong understanding of how to support each other and how to move that ball, looking for those passes. And we'll finish up with the last goal of the season with practically the last kick of the ball. Again, a whole bunch of ball retrieval. Ball comes up, and my striker comes in, who happened to be my son. It's the only goal he scored all year. I can make a highlight compilation of him crashing the bar, the post, and everything but the back of the goal. And we end up winning this game 6-1. So let's go back and review all this. So I hope you found that useful. I think at the end of the day, I feel pretty good about what my team did throughout the season. And I feel pretty good about what I did as a coach throughout the season. I think there were some moments in games where I needed to perhaps be a little bit more dispassionate and not get caught up in the moment. Maybe sometimes it's something my assistant coach was saying or whatever that affected me, and I need to perhaps be a little bit more low-key. That's just me. I like to usually sit on the bench with the subs for the most part. It's great that I have my son also helping as an assistant coach. He's a brilliant player, U16 MLS Next player, and the kids just adore him and look up to him, obviously, for lots of reasons. But I let him kind of go with it when he's available to kind of talk to the players. I think it's fantastic for them and for me. So I let that go. But I think in the overall picture, I think as a team, we got better. I think as players, my teams got better. And I think as a coach, I learned more so that coming into this new season, I can come at it with fresh eyes, with new inspiration from my D course and the coaches that I'm taking with it. Some fantastic coaches in that group. So if you found it useful, please subscribe, like, share. Really helps the channel, especially if you enjoy seeing content like this. I got 9v9 content. I have an acre of 7v7 content and some big picture content out there too. So nothing much more to say, but thank you so much. We'll see you on the field real soon, and bye.